So I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. And I think since we have some guests with us that may not know one another, let's go ahead and do a round of introduction. So I'm Cheryl Tagayas, the chair, and then I'm going to ask everyone to call on someone after they introduce themselves, and I'm going to do Cheyenne first.
Cheyenne Frazier, Assistant Director of Planning. I'll go Tabor.
Tabor Keeley, appointed member. Megan.
Megan Haggerty, Select Board Member. I'll go over to Dick.
Dick Burke, appointed member. And then who else is left?
We have Regina.
Regina.
Regina Cambalone, appointed member.
All right, and let's go ahead and have our guests do the same thing if you all can see each other. Otherwise, I'll do it. How about Deborah?
Hi, everyone. Deborah Milbauer, volunteer. Javier.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Javier Gutierrez. I'm MAPC. Sasha.
Verdi, and I work at MAPC along with Javier, and I'll pass it to Kyle.
Hi, Kyle Johnson, resident in P10.
And it looks like, lastly, Lisa.
Hi, everyone. Lisa Courtney. I'm the Mass and Motion Wellness Coordinator in the Department of Health here in Milton, and also a resident, Precinct 8.
All right, great. Thanks, everyone. So our next meeting dates are August 4th and September 10th. Are those still good for folks?
Yep.
Except for Cheyenne, who will be departing us before our next meeting. So I'll use this moment to say thank you to Cheyenne for all of her assistance with our committee. You'll be missed, Cheyenne, that's for sure.
Yes, you will.
Okay, next we have approval of the meeting minutes. Did everyone get a chance to review those? And does anyone have any suggested edits?
No,
I'll make a motion to approve.
it looked fine to me.
So Tabor made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have to do a roll call since we're all on Zoom. So Megan,
Hi.
Tabor,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Regina,
Aye.
yes, and myself, yes. Okay, I think everyone that's here is here for a agenda item, so we'll go right past citizen speak unless I hear otherwise from someone. Going once, twice, gone. Okay. MAPC visioning update. So Javier and Sasha, I'll turn it over to you to provide us an update on what you've been up to since you last gave us one of these updates.
Yes, thank you so much, Cheryl. Can I become a co-host so I can share the PowerPoint?
Yeah, it should be on multiple participants.
Okay, so let me see. Perfect. Well, first off, thank you, Cheryl, thank you, Cheyenne, and thank you everybody for welcoming us in the space. It's good to see some of our friends here, Kyle, Deborah, and Regina, who've been really who've been supportive and at the same time have leaned in to really guide us in this process as we move forward. So again, my name is Javier Gutierrez, and I'm here with my colleague Sasha Parodi. We're from the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, Community Engagement Department. For today's conversation, we're really here just to give you an update of process and what we've done. We're not here. Today's presentation is less about, although it's going to come out, it's less about themes that have come out or what we've learned so far, but it's more about what process and some changes, some tweaks that we've made in terms of our engagement process as we move into the as we are here today. Oh, sorry. So just to begin with, I just want to ground us in place. really setting the tone that our community visioning process involved two sites, the 7 Russia Road site and the adjacent parcel, and also the Pagoda Circle site. Just to give a refresher, as many of you know, the 7 Russia Road site is located northwest side of Milton. And one of the reasonings that we came into this space and wanted to support with a collaboration of getting input from the residents was because we also know and understand that this side of Milton is densely populated, has the highest concentration of renters, highest concentration of people of color, and the highest concentration of low-income people. And in our engagement, we have been explicitly trying to really engage people that live close to that site. The other side, as many of you are familiar, is the Pagoda Circle, which is northwest side of Milton. And really, this is a open green space with a history of marble oak trees. But at the same time, historically, not only has it been used for block parties, for inviting political guests who are running for office and doing a meet and greet, but also it's used for pickup games and for walks in the neighborhood. And it's a beautiful location. It has a great sense of convening. It has a great sense of just wanting to be there and just enjoying nature at its fullest. Recap of our process. Although we said that we wanted to end this process by the end of June, and it's still July, we had to do some extensions to the project and end this project at the end of July now. The reason for our extension was twofold. Number one, earlier this year, as many of you know, there was a town election. And during that town election process, over and over, we were told, this is not the best time for us to engage with you. Can you hold off and just wait until town election is over? And then we reconvene in these conversations and in terms of the one-on-ones, but also in terms of just in activities that we were planning on doing. And so we had to respect that process. And the second reason for the extension is there were some difficulties in terms of finding space, but at the same time, finding the right mechanisms to ensure that the people who are proximate to the site were able to actually provide intentional feedback. And we did reach out to some groups, but because of time and capacity in terms of outreach and getting people involved, we decided that it would be best to actually extend the month for the timeline until July 26th of this year. So with that in mind, this process began back in September with a kickoff meeting with MPC and the Milton Planning Department. We've done an extensive one-on-one conversations, which was really our backbone of sorts. It really gave us enough information to connect to the other, meaning what's going on in the social fabric. And then since March, with the caveat of the town elections, we've been having conversations we've been putting community engagement events, but at the same time, we've been having small conversations around the town and across the town into Mattapan as well, that my colleague Sasha will get into. And then now that we're ending the process, we are starting just to put the final report together and putting some recommendation, not some understandings of what came out in the analysis of sorts and the conversations of sorts. So with that, I'll turn it to my colleague Sasha.
Thank you, Javier. Yeah, so I think those of you who've heard our update in March will be familiar with this, but just with this, I'm not going to go into too much depth, but just wanted to recap that we had a total of 19 one-on-one conversations. We've actually had a few additional just bonus conversations that have happened since then. So I think the number is actually closer to 21 or 22. And this is kind of the perspectives that those conversations have represented. We really tried to reach people from across the different parts of Milton who community groups and areas of Milton that would really be most impacted by developments at 7 Brush Hill Road and or are geographically proximate to that area. Next slide, please, Javier. And again, we've shared a lot about this, but just to recap, that the themes that came out of these discussions were very consistent. In particular, there was a big push for or a desire for space that would engage youth, but also gathering spaces for adults that could be, rented or reserved, as well as having opportunity for higher engagement in precincts 1 and 10, and for these spaces to be inclusive, not just for Milton residents, but also for folks over in Mattapan and beyond. And some of the ideas that came out of those conversations were having things like amenities, so a basketball court or other kind of sports activity spaces. I think a big point of emphasis from a lot of people has been having like varied activities available. So maybe having a gaming room for teens, but also flexible room spaces that people can meet in, maybe having lower stimulation, quieter spaces, and also having spaces where people could get together and chat with a friend. So kind of having a wider array of options, maybe some space that people can engage with as they want, and other spaces that are more coordinated, like having a yoga class or something like that, where people could sign up ahead of time. Next slide, Javier. So those conversations really, as Javier mentioned, were the foundation for the engagements that we designed. And we met with people to talk both about 7 Brush Hill Road and Pagoda Circle. And we ended up doing 2 types of engagement for each site. So I'm going to start with talking about Pagoda Circle. For that site, we did 1 visioning session and a block party. The visioning session, which Regina supported us in coordinating, brought together 9 participants, all of whom are longtime residents of the circle, to share a little bit about what they want to see for that area. A lot of things came up in that conversation, but in particular, there was a desire for seasonal activities that can bring people together. And again, that theme of both wanting some space for spontaneous activity, if some kids want to throw a frisbee type of thing, for that to be available, but also maybe for some organized activities where people could connect with each other. There was desire for infrastructure adjustments to address safety concerns, and that ranged from things like leveling the field so that people don't trip, to having a few benches so that folks could enjoy the space while not having to stand. There's desire for natural preservation. People talked a lot about the importance of the nature of Pagoda Circle and wanting to really preserve and celebrate that over the years, and for it to continue to be a space that remains natural and is supportive of the local wildlife, and desire for any further development to be collaborative and with input from community members who are in Pagoda Circle. That both represented the folks who were there, but also more broadly making sure that we're really reaching people who are most active at Pagoda Circle, who go there daily, which are the folks in the immediate kind of circle area, but are also folks a little bit more broadly in the neighborhood. So kind of getting their input. One thing that folks shared at this meeting is that they thought it would be effective if we had something like a block party, which is an activity that folks at Pagoda Circle have done before and were familiar with and could generate additional attendance. So we took them up on that suggestion, and we hosted a block party a couple weeks later. We had 8 folks join us, and there was an array of activities that people could do. You could write yourself a postcard from the future. There was voting on the top priorities for Pagoda Circle. So if folks were to, pick 1 or 2 things, what would their priorities be? The ones that came up were cleaning up the dead trees in the circle, and also instituting benches for people to be able to have access. It gave us another opportunity to talk to people. We did have a couple folks who came over just because they saw us in the area. We also had free ice cream so that got a few folks to participate. But it was helpful to just kind of gut check what we had already talked about in the visioning session with a slightly broader array of people who had not made it to that session. So that's our Pagoda Circle engagement. For 7 Brush Hill Road, we decided to pivot a little bit, primarily because we were having trouble nailing down a date and a location that would be a good space for us to bring people together. We had originally wanted to try and do something at the site so that folks could really do some visioning at 7 Brush Hill Road, but upon further conversation, it just became clear that that was going to not really be possible. And so as we were hearing feedback from folks, and as we were thinking about how to really reach people, we decided to pivot our engagement, and instead of hosting an event where we're asking people to come to us, we decided to meet people where they were and do some door knocking. So we door knocked along Brush Hill Road and Blue Hill Ave and a little bit on Blue Hill Parkway. Kyle, who's here today, joined us along with another community member, Joe. So it was Javier and I, and also a couple of Milton residents. So we had kind of representation from the community itself. And we reached, we door knocked on 97 doors over 2 visits. And of those 97 doors, we engaged 29 households. I don't know how many of you have door knocked before, but that is actually a pretty high turnout for door knocking. Personally, my expectation was way, way lower. So it was great to see that folks were engaged, and definitely as we talked to people, there was a pretty big spectrum from, you know, some folks who had never heard of this effort before to others telling us that they're very engaged, that they've already filled out our survey, or that they're connected through other avenues. So it was cool to kind of hear where folks are coming from. Very consistently in those conversations, people brought up having a community center or some kind of gathering space for people. So that was definitely the biggest overarching theme that came up. There was a lot of interest in food amenities. A couple folks mentioned a coffee shop. A couple folks mentioned having things like a food truck vendor, maybe a rotating food truck vendor if the building isn't like adaptable to having a kitchen. Some folks talked a lot about the green space and how they enjoy using the green space in the area and would like more of it. And then we also ended up meeting somebody who helps run the Milton Food Pantry out of the United Parkway Methodist Church. And she brought up the idea of having the site be open as the community food pantry, you know, for one day of the week, because right now they run it out of the local church. And a couple of other folks who we met with following that brought this up as well. And actually, because of meeting her, Javier and I ended up joining the food pantry folks last Saturday just to see what their work is about and jump in and kind of help out and connect with folks in that way, which was really awesome to see. So that was something we wouldn't have learned about or considered doing if we hadn't door knocked, and I think is representative of the types of connections you can make unexpectedly. So that door knocking is supplemented with a survey that we distributed, and many of you have helped spread the word about the survey. The other thing we heard from many people who we spoke with was, I've already filled out the survey. So there was a lot of responsiveness from that. We've gotten 149 responses, and 10 of those came from door knocking efforts. Any household that we didn't reach, we left a flyer with a QR code to the survey. So some folks did fill it out that way. And it was also shared through a variety of kind of groups in Milton, including West Milton Neighborhood Association, Pinebrook Neighborhood Association, the Tucker PTO, and through our door knocking efforts. I'm guessing there were other group chats that we're not aware of that things were spread through. From that survey, just briefly, 64% of the folks who responded voted for a community center, 54% noted wanting a recreational facility, and 52% wanted a cafe or a food facility. So as we're seeing from the one-on-ones to the visioning sessions, to the door knocking, to the survey, it's pretty consistent what folks are looking to have in their community. I would also say that the concerns that were brought up were consistent in that folks had questions about the traffic in the area, parking, and pedestrian accessibility of the space, especially if it becomes someplace that a lot of people are going to regularly. We didn't put this in a slide, but I will just note that Javier and I also did a mini youth focus group at the Milton Library, where we talked with 4 or 5 young people about what they might want to see from their community. And again, a lot of the ideas were consistent with this. They were very interested in a youth space. I think a lot of adults that we spoke with mentioned that if there were a youth-centered component to this space, that it should be designed by youth. And so we ended up digging into some of those design details. What would they want if they could have a youth center in Milton? A lot of them talked about having a wide array of activities available, which is consistent with what adults have told us, but also talked about some design features like having the spaces be very bright, having different types of seating that's comfortable for folks, having food available, maybe having some staff on hand who can welcome them, which is consistent also with what we heard from adults who gave us input on this process, that if there was a youth space, that they would want some, supportive people there who could support youth who are coming to that space. So that's kind of what the process has been like so far. In terms of next steps, the survey will be open through the 18th, so through the end of this week. And based on all of this work that we've done, the one-on-one conversations, the engagement activities that we've done, the survey, we are going to collect this and put this into a report that we will share with you all, but also we are planning to share back out with any person we engaged through this process who gave us their contact information, so that this truly is something that is for community use and that folks can have access to and be aware of. I think there was an idea of also maybe circulating like printed versions of the report, especially to folks in the 7 Brush Hill Road area, so that we're really, again, reaching everyone who we tried to reach throughout this process with like the follow-up. In that report, we're going to include some recommendations for next steps around 7 Brush Hill Road and Pagoda Circle, and also share our reflections on process, what worked, what didn't, what could be effective moving forward, since we feel that there have been a lot of learnings around engagement from this project that hopefully can be useful to Milton down the road. I think that is it.
Can I also just add that we did present at the PTO board meeting for the Tucker Elementary School about a month and a half ago, and at the same time we did present for the I forgot the association name on Riverway in Mattapan. I'm forgetting the name, but I'll look for it and I'll share it. The Edgewater Association. We attended the Edgewater Association meeting also about a month and a half ago, just to not only present on what we were doing, but at the same time collect some input in terms of anything that we're missing, anything that they wanted to add to in terms of what would work in that space.
Javier and Sasha, thank you so much. Wonderful update. I do have a question about that Mattapan engagement. I think Tabor had alerted us to a potential new crossing over the Neponset that would connect. Is that something that you learned more about in that conversation with that neighborhood association?
Not through the neighborhood association, but we did inquire about the bridge. I can find my notes from that conversation. I think that it is looking to be constructed in earliest, I think 2027 is when the project would be shovel ready. And the idea would be for it to be complete by 2030. So I think it is a little bit of a ways away, but actually a couple of folks we spoke with did bring up desire to be connected kind of across with communities across the river, and interest in that bridge, especially because there is a playground in that area. And so they thought that could be a nice way to have a place for their kids to go. So this does remind me though that something that came up in the Pagoda Circle visioning session, and I think our initial 7 Brush Hill Road conversation, we did have an initial conversation with members from the West Milton Neighborhood Association back in March, which we did not include in the slides here, were questions about parallel projects. And so the report will include a list of what parallel efforts are ongoing, who the contacts for those efforts are, and any, nuggets of information that we were able to acquire for related to those projects. I think the general synthesis is that all of them are potentially relevant, but not the physical changes are not going to be happening earlier than 2027, I think, on any of them.
Okay, and that would include like the bike path that DCR is working on, right?
I'm pretty sure, yes.
Okay.
I think the DCR is doing the community gardens on the other side, or at least they're that's ongoing right now.
Yes.
But the stone wall that's over there, I think they've opened that up. A few other little things, but they don't. Again, it's the DCR, so it depends on their funding, and it's probably lacking. But the bridge is the big issue, and that's probably not going to happen for a little while.
Okay, Tabor, I was going to see if committee members have questions, and then I'll see if folks like Kyle who were participants, Deborah, Regina, if you all have any thing that you want to add to what Sasha and Javier have provided. So any questions from committee members first?
Is there a
Okay.
model for this? I'm thinking of the building itself, and maybe Kyle could help out on discussing this, but it's just how do you manage a structure? Who's going to be handling the scheduling of the food trucks, or what have you? Is that the Parks Department, or and are you aware in the MAPC communities, is there somebody else that's already done something like this so we could follow what they've done, or?
So the site is up for curatorship through DCR. So the idea is that DCR would continue owning that site, but they would basically have a designated curator of the site, and rather than paying rent, they would be responsible financially and logistically for the upkeep of the site. An example of that that's kind of more commercial is the Charles River Speedway over in Lower Alston, Brighton area. And the DCR has in their curatorship, like program description, has a bunch of other use cases that folks could look at. I know that folks from the West Milton Neighborhood Association had done some research themselves as well. So I don't know, Kyle, if there's anything you want to add, but there certainly are examples of it. The idea is that whoever gets accepted as the curator of the site would be responsible for its upkeep. And if they were to include any programming, that would be, their programming to manage.
Okay.
So Kyle, if you'd like to speak, but before you do, I'm just going to mention quickly that you may recall, committee members, that Kyle's with the Neponset Esplanade Initiative, and they applied for CPC funds for the next step in this process, and they were selected, and those were voted in at the Maytown meeting. So they have those funds now to engage with consultants for the next step, which would to get into more detail about how this could work on this property. So with that, Kyle?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, I think the Speedway is maybe the most interesting example we've seen, and it's managed by an architectural heritage association or foundation. So they manage it, they manage leases to tenants and sort of run it as a commercial enterprise in that regard. We've had conversations with the group Co-Everything that works on a lot of collaborative community projects. They've worked on food co-ops in different areas around town and some other parts of the country as well. And so through them, we've explored what more community focused and or nonprofit centered or public centered projects would look like. But that's what we would be hoping to explore with using the grant funding that we have, is explore kind of feasibility of different business and operational models and who the stakeholders in that would be. But that's also kind of an open question still.
Cheryl, the question I have, who would the curator be on this?
That's, I think, still to be determined, Dick. That I think it's in part how the funding might work, and I think that's the part that comes in the phase follows this one. Is that right, Kyle? You would be explore funding models or operational models?
Yeah, exactly. So informally, we've talked about what does it look like to apply for curatorship as a private group. We've talked about what does it look like to advocate that the town pursue that, or partnership with some other entity, either a nonprofit or a commercial entity. So we're kind of, as community members, trying to find what the right partnership is to seek curatorship would be. But that still is also is an open question.
Okay, I think that's going to be important. Also, there was some reference to Mattapan and a couple of comments made by one of the consultants. Are we talking about a shared project? Are we looking to hook up with the city of Boston on something like this?
I think that they were asked to think beyond the border, since it's right on the border, and to seek to learn from what's happening there as well. So Kyle, I don't know that you were intended for any kind of Boston-based organization, but you probably wouldn't rule it out, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Totally. Absolutely open to that, but hadn't, no specific intention or plan on that.
Well, that would be interesting. The other thing I think we were talking about, there seems to be a lot of comments about recreational space as an option. Have we talked to Parks and Recreation at all about something like this in terms of, I guess they would be, I'm not sure who would be, I guess if the town was a curator, they would have responsibility for maintenance of that property. If not, it would be a not-for-profit entity that would have the responsibility for that. Does that sound right?
Yeah, correct. Like if it were the town, I don't know exactly who would be. I think Parks would make a lot of sense since they already own the parcel next to it, or they already oversee the parcel next to it.
Right.
We have spoken with them. They endorsed our initial request for CPC funding. And I think there is, general openness to that conversation, but yeah, nothing formal.
No, I'm just concerned because I understand that they're feeling fairly stretched now in their budget. I'm just wondering about adding additional responsibility, going forward, in anticipation of, let's say, moving forward. So, okay, those are my questions. It really comes back to me, who is going to be the curator of this going forward? And I know we're exploring different options, but I think that's going to be critical in terms of how this thing moves forward and gets looked at by other people besides us.
Absolutely, I agree.
Okay.
Okay, other questions? Regina, did you want to add anything about Pagoda Circle?
No, I think, what's been really nice is to see that with increased engagement, a lot of the same themes popped out. And in fact, what was really, really inspiring is that some of the things that near neighbors were really unable to even consider 2 years ago were brought up by near neighbors in this engagement session as things that they are actually hoping for. And so I think by having the conversations and by getting to know people, this became a bit less of a threat to people's sort of traditional mindset around Pagoda Circle and became more of an opportunity. So I'm very happy that that I was present to hear some of that change in the narrative happen. And I think in large part it was having Javier and Sasha be present and be outsiders coming into the neighborhood to ask those questions that allowed some folks to be able to really consider the possibilities.
Okay, thank you, Regina.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
I have a quick question for Kyle. Kyle, this is interesting timing, given the Neponset Superfund site. Does this, have you guys linked up with the folks who are working on that? Because I think that cleanup will unlock a lot of opportunity for water-based activities in that area
Yeah,
that might
absolutely.
support an overall sort of active vision.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. It's been actually really exciting to see a few converging things happening between the trail revitalization, the gardening, and then also the cleanup project for the river. I think have all spoken to interest on kind of both sides of the river in
Right.
this area and making it a resource. We have talked to not recently, but we have talked a fair bit to the Watershed Association.
Okay.
I'm not 100% clear on their exact role, but I'm sure they have some role as well. And
Yeah, they are participating in it,
yeah,
in the cleanup.
yeah,
But I mean, just the overall point to, you know, when large investments are made to clean up sites like this, I mean, it can really have, you know, an economic stimulus and be something that helps attract additional capital, which would help to support more community-based use like this. Like I think there's a lot of exciting opportunity for leveraging that if the projects can be, you know, mapped out and sequenced.
yeah. And I'm reticent to touch the third rail, but also the paper mill zoning as well. I think is an interesting situation that was already zoned, but as the change has come, if there were ever interest in that site, that could be something to leverage as well as part of that area, revitalizing that
Right.
area.
I will just note that we did speak with Neponset River Watershed as part of our 101s circuit, so they are like aware of this engagement effort that happened and have been kind of kept in the loop and shared some information with us that we'll be including in the report about some of their ongoing work with that area that they would be continuing regardless of the curatorship. So I think they're interested and excited about the ideas for this space, and I think probably could continue to be engaged as you all are interested.
One detail that came out of some conversations we've had with the Watershed Association is that the only I think there are water-based activities that could be engaged there, but there was a little question about whether from their perspective it requires more advanced experience levels to be able to actually kayak it because of where it's placed. So there's that component of how it would be used exactly, but I think there's definitely interest in seeing opportunities there.
So Megan,
Also,
okay,
the
Tabor, go ahead.
Watershed Association is one of the significant contributors to the Greenway Alliance, and which is the bike path maintenance of it, signage, the whole bit. We have several seats on the board, and that I think is probably the first choice to maintain the activity through the bikes, because it goes right by the front door. And yes, the launch site for the kayaks is there, but it is less than ideal in its present construction. Even if it were done, it's probably going to be 4 years before they, or maybe 5 years before they get the contaminants out of there. They still haven't done the second phase of the investigation yet, so it's going to be a while. But in the meantime, the watershed did consider applying to DCR for the curatorship to run it as their headquarters, but declined because it's so far off the highway and so far off from the rest of the watershed. But they did have a significant interest in that.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that not only did the Neponset Esplanade Initiative get CPC funding, but so did Pagoda Circle. So the idea was that this visioning would be a good first step, and that the funding that they just received will help them advance some of the goals that were I guess, learned of through this community process. Okay, so I think Sasha and Javier, did you think that you would want to come back and present or give an overview of your report at our August 4th meeting? Or have you reached the limit of how many touch points you're providing us in your contract?
We would love to come back and provide you with a kind of a summary of the report and get more into the nitty-gritty.
Okay.
We would have to go back and check if August 4th is the right time. I know that the vacations and everything is in between. But can we confirm with you via email, Cheryl? Maybe.
Sure. And if not, then our next meeting, you may have heard, is September 10th.
September.
So since Cheyenne will be off in brighter pastures by then, you can communicate with me directly about what works for you. Okay?
Definitely. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Anything else, anyone, before they depart?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so we will now move on to the discussion of the shuttle bus service analysis that we've been kicking around for a while with Deborah. And I see we're also joined by Alex Hasha, who's the chair of the Climate Action Planning Committee, and I think heavily involved in Sustainable Milton. But before we get to those
And
folks.
Lisa Courtney.
And Lisa Courtney, yeah, she introduced herself, I think, early on, right?
Yes.
So
Elaine is
since
here.
And Elaine has joined. Yes, Elaine joined
Hi.
a bit ago, but because we had the share screen, and Javier was presenting, I didn't interrupt that. But thanks, Elaine, for joining. So since we last met, Deborah and I, well, Deborah's done a lot of work, but I'll give the update that I'm part of. We had a meeting with Nick Milano, and we discussed this idea and how it could work, and how it could work not just financially, but also since our committee's sunsetting, you know, where would it go once we sunset this effort? And during that discussion, he said, well, the funds couldn't be used to pay directly stipends, that they need to be used for studies. And so, but they could go through another entity, just like we did with MAPC, for example. And so we talked about the Partnership for a Healthy Milton being that conduit. So it being the place that which the, sort of, if you will, sort of the contract with the students would go through the Partnership for a Healthy Milton, potentially with funds provided by MPEC. And he also said that given the vacancies in the planning department, that he would be happy to be the touch point for town hall as an interim until those positions might be filled. And so that's sort of on the procurement logistics side. And now I think Deborah has some exciting updates on how this is advanced with Northeastern and some of the partnerships that she's spoken about. So Deborah.
Thank you, Cheryl. And just to reiterate, so the Partnership for Healthy Milton is a 501(c)(3). It's a nonprofit. And so we can hold the money and pay the stipends to the students directly. And it actually solved some issues with Northeastern also. So it's really perfect. So I have found a wonderful student. I interviewed her today. If she knows that this is still in conversation and still pending, and this group needs to approve the process. But if this is approved, she's a master's student in urban planning and has actually worked for municipalities writing reports on transportation and assessment. So it's really exciting. I'm also connected to some of the faculty in the urban planning department at Northeastern, which I know Megan and others had actually asked if could be some expertise around the issue. So that's exciting, and I'm in conversation with some of that faculty, and I have another student lined up for next week just to talk through, because the stipends could pay for 2 students, and I think in the end makes the most sense, because doing key stakeholder interviews is a whole project. That could be 1 student, and then doing the data mining, data collection could be another student, and they actually, if the second one works out, they know each other and they work well together. So, but that's sort of jumping the gun just in terms of what the possibility is, assuming that this group gives your blessings. And in terms of after, did you want me to say more about that, Cheryl?
I was thinking about, you could speak about the advisory committee that we spoke about that could pick up from MPIC. Okay.
Okay. So once this group's approves, and once we have the students sort of finalized and set up, and the faculty are set up, the students and the faculty and myself can just start anytime we're sort of ready to go. And this group is really valuable to bounce ideas off of, get blessings, get insights, get ideas. So once this sunsets, the plan is to convene a community advisory committee of volunteers, not town appointed, not going through select board, just and Nick Milano recommended this, that the Partnership for Healthy Milton facilitate that community advisory committee. And my hope is that we have now a couple of months to work on this and put together a group. And the role of the group would just be to meet monthly, allow the students and myself to do some check-ins. This is what the information we've collected, get feedback. Are we in the right direction? Are there questions that are missing? Are we going in the wrong, are we on the right track? And then, so maybe when reports are ready, read the report, just give feedback, say thumbs up, fix this section, just to have sort of an advisory group to keep the project chugging along, so it's not just me and my student. And I'm hoping that, and we have some folks who have volunteered or who expressed interest or who we have asked and who said, yeah, I might consider it. Why don't you get me some more information? So that's in the works, and I feel hopeful about that. I don't know, Cheryl, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, I think you've identified maybe a group of about 5, right, who would be willing to do that, which seems like a reasonable group, and some with transportation expertise. So I think that's promising that there's already interest in it. No, I think, the fact last time we didn't know that we would have students from the urban studies, planning and urban studies, right? We didn't know that we would have a faculty advisor from that department. We didn't know that we would have a fiscal vehicle, and we didn't know that we would have town support after this committee sunset. So I think that's why I say it's exciting progress, because I think that is a lot of good work that's been done since our last meeting. So Alex and Lisa, I'm going to ask you if you would like to share your thoughts about this initiative. Alex, how about you first?
Sure. I don't have a lot to share other than from the perspective of the Climate Action Planning Committee. It is the state's goal of net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050 will require reducing vehicle miles traveled per family. That's what the modeling shows, and so in addition to kind of pushing on electric vehicle, zero emission vehicle adoption statewide, making investments in alternatives to driving is an important part of what we're looking at. And I think also as a resident and as a parent, really interested in not having to drive around town quite so much. So I don't have a lot of transportation expertise, and I'm excited to be a part of this and hopefully learn something. So that's all I have to say for now.
Great, thank you. Thanks for joining us. And Lisa?
Mass in Motion is always talking about active transportation, statewide and safe routes to schools as well. And I think this could go a long way to both, to achieving both of those. In my opinion, the more cars we can get off the road, the sort of the safer it is for all of us. Especially getting kids back and forth to school and around town. So I'm really excited to see this move forward, and I'm happy to help however I can.
And in full disclosure, I had asked Alex and Lisa, if they had any interest in the Community Advisory Committee, and we also asked Matt Morong as well. And there's no commitments here. It's just this is what's pending, and so we'll circle back and put things in writing and present it and invite folks more formally. But these are the folks who have expressed interest, and I'm really grateful to you guys because I know everyone's plate is really, really full.
And Deborah, you left out that I expressed interest.
Well, I was going to say this.
All right, let's go to questions.
And Cheryl.
Yes. All right, questions or comments?
I got a couple here. Deborah, would you go back and just explain to me why this wouldn't be for credit and why we're paying stipends?
Yes, good question. So I went back and met with faculty in my own department who sort of explained how the credits work. One idea was it would fit in as a capstone, and I didn't realize this, but actually part of capstone is the student comes up with their own projects, and that's part of the capstone process is you figure out what you want to do in your own idea. So to present a project to a student is sort of goes against what capstone is, which I didn't realize. And then also if it was an independent study project for like 4 credits, that also is a much longer, more involved process that I also didn't realize needed to have been started, a year ago, the way academia works. So the idea of academic credit, I thought it was easier than it was going to be. So I tried. I met with a few different faculty. I had meetings. I sent lots of emails. But I think I got ahead of my skis by saying that was an option before I actually explored it.
No, I don't think you did. I mean, I think that it certainly made sense. I'm just thinking about my own background and doing a number of these things over the years in a couple of graduate programs and undergraduate programs. I never get paid. So that's, I'm thinking about, and these weren't projects that I came up with. These are projects that were given to me by someone to do. So I'm just I'm not sure what capstone is, but I'm sure I could probably find out. Who would be applying for the funding to MPIC? Would it be Northeastern, or would it be a committee that you had mentioned that that's going to be coming together? So in other words,
Sorry,
yeah,
Deborah.
so go ahead.
We spoke to Nick about it being the Partnership for Healthy Milton, which was Deborah first came to us as a representative from that partnership. So it's not Deborah or the school.
Okay, so they're applying to an MPIC. Okay, is it after we go through all of this? Would the town be taking over this initiative, sort of like the senior shuttle? Is this something that the town would be ready, willing, and able to absorb in their budget, I guess?
So these are all good questions. So firstly, the partnership isn't applying for the money. The partnership did. So the Partnership for Healthy Milton is a nonprofit, and it's just a group of Milton folks who are volunteers with expertise in public health. And we did strategic planning, and one of the priorities was revisiting MPIC's suggestion 10 years ago around a shuttle, thinking of transportation as a public health asset.
Right.
And so the partnership, I represented them, came to you guys to say, hey, let's revisit this. And I offered up a student to do a project. So that collaboration happened in collaboration. So it wasn't really an application. And then your second question is, the idea is so big that we really need to get some information first before anything else happens. So this is really just, how do other people do it? How do they operate it? What do other people do? And just writing it up in a finding, and then in a report and present the findings. And then Milton or whatever body can take this up and say, this is really interesting. Let's maybe look at, maybe we'll take it up. So there isn't any plan or decision right now. It's really just information gathered, so the next step or the next group of people can pick it up with some facts in hand and then say, okay, this is where we want to go with it. So right now, nobody's doing anything with it other than us just collecting information, and then we'll present that information in whatever body or group makes the most sense, or department.
We did talk, Deborah, with Nick about it being planning department makes sense.
Yeah.
We just anticipate by the time the work's done that there might be some vacancies filled by then. But in the meantime, Nick will be our liaison with town.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more time, who's coming to us looking for money? Is it Deborah and her group? But it's not this other group of Sustainable Milton, or who's looking for the funding?
It would be the Partnership for a Healthy Milton, Deborah, because that's who would receive the funds.
That seems to contradict what Deborah just said, though, right?
She said it was a collaboration with us.
Sorry.
It's all right. I'm not putting you on the spot here. I'm just trying to figure.
Let me say this. So I serve in the partnership, and I'm offering to do a project with students. So the money would go through the partnership. So that's right. To pay the students. And so the partnership would be, I guess, the fiscal conduit to pay the students. So yeah, that's right.
These would be all Northeastern students. This wouldn't be open up to anyone else, right?
Correct.
Okay. There was a mention by the last speaker, and I maybe laugh a little bit, but I not because it was particularly funny. It was going to be a kids shuttle. This isn't what this is about, is it? We're not looking at this to just provide transportation for kids to get around town.
I mean, at this point, it's just information gathering and finding out how other communities do it. Really, I don't know.
Also, part of it is to see. I think in the survey, there was a resident survey to see what interest there would be and for what purposes. And so what purposes would still come from that information gathering that we're talking about. I mean,
that's a survey that's going to be done. We don't have a survey right now.
Correct. That's part of the scope of the work.
I just want to make sure what we're talking about here in terms of what we're doing. Okay, those are my questions.
Okay, thanks, Dick. Elaine, I see your hand up. I see. There you go.
Really, I forgot how to unmute myself. Sorry. I just wanted to echo Cheryl's sentiments and just, really appreciate the progress that's been made since our last meeting. And thanks, Deb, for all of your work. Very thorough work, I would say, that went into this. I'm sure it wasn't a light lift. I think as a community that seems to very highly value education, it feels especially fitting to help fund a student-led project, and then that, as well as increased traffic concerns around Greater Boston and ongoing climate concerns. I think that this is kind of a no-brainer. It's a modest cost. I think if we as a team move forward to fund it, I know that I genuinely would look forward to the insights that it could bring. So that's all I have. But thank you again for all the effort here.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. Tabor, your hand's up.
So I saw in the proposal the various towns that were going to be interviewed for their projects and how it worked, et cetera. But one town that I'm aware of next door to us that I'm sure that other people in town will want to know why did the Dedham shuttle fail? And I think it's it's the elephant in the room, so we got to put it on the list just to figure out. We tried, we couldn't get anybody to respond or whatever it is, but it seems like that's kind of a going to be an obvious question for a lot of people.
Okay, so Deborah, we can add Dedham to the list, correct?
Yeah,
And I think you've raised that issue before, Tabor.
yes, and
sorry,
I
we didn't
meant
pick
to
it
go
up.
back and add it, and I forgot. So thank you for bringing it up again. It's a really good point, not just that one, but what others have not, worked. It's a really
I'm
good.
sure there are others too, yeah. So
Yeah, it's a really good question. Thanks.
So just again, as a reminder, we came up with this list first from when I did outreach to MAPC to see if they had any experience with this. And they got back to me with some towns to reach out to. And then I did a little research and found a few others. So if there's any that come about from their conversations, Deborah, maybe they can think about adding, but we can definitely add Dedham to the list.
Yeah.
If they do some research and find somebody else as a better example, they can substitute these out too. But let's keep Dedham in because it was discontinued.
Yeah.
Megan?
Hi. I just wanted to share that I think that Deborah and the group have been really responsive since the last meeting. I know I had questions about just sharpening the scope. In my review of the document, I think a lot more effort has been put in to outline what the deliverable would be, fully, with the tasks that would go into this. So I think the piece of work is pretty clear. And I think it's great that you've got some planning students. My question is have the students done any co-ops yet, or done any work for either government or private firms yet? Okay, so that's,
Yes, both actually.
Okay.
But I've only interviewed one, and she's really great. Checks all the boxes. And by the way, I'm happy for one of you or any of you to join me and interview or meet her or have our first meeting together. Them, I should say. So I was doing it because I didn't want to burden anyone else with extra work, but happy to open that up if you have any
no,
interest.
the reason I ask, or what I'm trying to get at is, if we have some folks working on this with a bit of experience, I think it's actually like a decent deal for us to pay $2,400 to 2 students. If these are individuals who are capable of producing a professional product, it seems like we've lined up a scope on our end. So I think this has come a long way since the last time we met on this.
I have a question. There was mention of is there a proposal that you put in, Deborah, to us? I must have missed that.
That was what I circulated today, but this is probably the third version of it, Dick.
Okay, well, I haven't seen it, so I haven't opened it up. So when did you send that around? Because I looked at it this morning, I didn't see it.
Yeah, I sent it this afternoon.
Okay, all right.
It's the deliverables, I think, are pretty similar to what they were the last time, but there are some background and process improvements that we talked about. But the list of communities, the questions for the interviews, and the resident survey, I think were all in there in the last version. And I think, yeah, the tasks were in there. Maybe the deliverables was a little bit different, but the tasks were all in there.
I mean, it was mostly the same. I just cleaned it up and formatted it and edited it a little bit, but it was the same content mostly. I mean, and what I did clarify in just through editing, not through content changes, but just editing is, so there's 3 things. One is the interviews, one is the data collection, and one is the survey, which is intended to just be an online survey. And then the deliverables will be a written report that includes an executive summary and a written report. And actually, the student today has told me she's written executive summaries before and reports, so it's great. And then a slide deck of a presentation that the student could help, put together and present, help present or co-present or whatever it is. So those are the products, right? The report with an executive summary and then slides eventually down the road if we want to, include the student in presenting it.
Okay. I would like to suggest that we consider supporting this at this point, and supporting it by allocating $2,400 of our current fiscal year, we're in the new fiscal year now, budget to this effort. So does the committee, is the committee in agreement on that? Members in agreement?
Do we need to make a motion here, Cheryl?
We would.
Motion to put forward $2,400 for the shuttle exploration program under MPIC and what was it?
Partnership
for Healthy Milton. I'd love to take a vote on it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those, or any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Tabor?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Regina?
Aye.
Elaine?
Aye.
Dick?
I'm gonna vote no, not because it isn't a good idea, but I just can't vote on something when I just saw that haven't read the proposal. I just received it this afternoon. I haven't had a chance to go over it, so I'm gonna vote no.
Okay, and I will vote yes. So thank you, Deborah, Alex, and Lisa. And we'll look forward to getting this started. And Deborah, let's see where we are so that we can see whether we have this on the agenda. Maybe we can meet the students if they're interested at one of our upcoming meetings. Okay.
That sounds great. Two quick things. One is I do need to bring this back to the partnership and get formal approval from them as well.
Okay.
And if anyone is interested in helping out on the advisory committee when you all and eventually sunset, let me know. And that's it. Thanks, you guys. I know this has been a long process, but it's made, as Megan said, it's really clarified it. So thank you, everybody, for hanging in there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thanks,
Talk
everyone.
soon. Okay. All right, folks, we're at that point of discussion of the draft 10-year report. And Dick, to your point about time to read things, I didn't give you a lot of time to read updates, but we are running short, and so I can share the report on the screen again like we did last time. Tabor, I see that you added a section. Thank you for that.
I've totally apologized. I forgot all about it. I wrote it last week and I never entered it. And then your email came through and I said, oh, so I cut and pasted it today.
And Elaine has let me know that she's overcommitted herself in many ways right now, and she will get to the housing section, and we appreciate that. I did start to plug in some more information in various places. So I'd like folks to think about the structure of this report. Like I had initially kind of organized it around the way the plan itself is organized, kind of explaining what's in it and what we looked at, and what sections are required in it, and report on those. But do we, I think it's important to think about how much will people read? Do we want to highlight in the beginning, like what was accomplished and what our recommendations are, and then go into the background? So And I know that's different structure than what's set up there, but if folks could think about that. In addition, is to think about any content that we think is missing. So like I spoke to Elaine a little bit today about the housing section and kind of some pieces to highlight, but there's overlap with the zoning, right? Where it just mentioned in different pieces. And then Regina, today I was realizing too, there's a lot of CPC funding has gone to recreation and open space initiatives. So I've plugged that in one place. I think it was the top 20 recommendations, but does that better suited under recreation section? I think if we think about what we want to communicate to folks really is that yes, progress was made. It was worth doing 10 years ago, 10 to 12 years ago. And yet there's still more to be done and it needs to be updated in certain areas, right? So, but we also need to give the background for folks who are interested in the background, right? So Megan, since you're newer to this, I'd be interested what you would be looking at this a little fresher than the rest of us. If you could kind of give, your thoughts about the structure, like of the report itself. And if I want to go back, and I don't think we had the Superfund cleanup in there. And I do think that was a good point, Megan, to bring up, and that can get added to the recreation, I think, to Tabor, maybe your familiarity with what's going on with NEPRA and so forth. If you could kind of give it, a once over, like, what are we missing in this report? What do you think is important, for a follow-up action for a master plan update? And then I think once we get that, I'm willing to sit down and kind of try and infill the pieces that I'm aware of too, from planning board work and other CPC. Since I do serve on the CPC, I've seen all the applications that have come in the last couple of years. So I'll start to plug that in. So does this kind of make sense to folks? Any thoughts?
It does. I mean, it's always a task when you have a lot of work that's been done over a lot of years. How do you edit it down to small bites for the average person who's not thinking about this all the time? So I think it's that balance of what's missing, balancing out the need to potentially add things, but also we will need to cut some stuff back, probably.
Right. So we think about the audience too. The audience initially select board and planning board, and then town meeting. And what we want the planning board to do, since these master plans fall under planning board initiation usually, is we want the planning board to say, yeah, we agree with you. We think there should be some targeted updates to this plan, and that we're happy that you solicited funding and you got it, and we can use that funding to update it, right? So that's kind of what I think anyway. Now, a select board can play a role in that as strongly as much as possible, as much as they have an interest in. And Megan, you can bring that back to the select board too, to talk about. But because there's pieces of this that are truly not in planning board or planning purview, right? They're really other departments and under this town administrator, which would fall under the select board, right? And some are independent, like the Parks Commission, right? So they are already embarking on a recreational master plan. They just got CPC funding for that. So I think that's a really big difference from 10, 12 years ago. We didn't have the CPC, and we didn't have all of these projects that are coming through with that funding in place, which is really, even on the housing side, money going to the Affordable Housing Trust. Historic preservation side, Tabor, there's less projects, but maybe in that historic part, you could touch on that a little bit. That funding has gone to the Eustis Estate, it's gone to the observatory up on the Big Blue, it's gone to the Yacht Club building. So there's I guess, you know, in some ways, if you just look at the master plan itself, you'll kind of miss some of these other things, right? So we have to take our collective knowledge and bring it back into what's not in there that we want to highlight. So if I could, since we are really running a little bit short on time on this, if folks could get some feedback before our next meeting, I will do another round of writing, of organizing. And Regine, I know you have an idea on Canva. If you want to start thinking about the Canva, you know, and knowing the kind of content that we've got going.
Absolutely.
Like we talked about some call out boxes, you know, stuff like what would be a good kind of content for a call out box. Because I'd like for the 4th to be a really good working session, if we can, to really make, because I will, Megan, the fall town meeting is October
27th.
27th. Okay, so we're going to sunset in October, and we're going to need to present on the 27th. We'll need to present to the select board and planning board before then, and I'll be in Scandinavia for a couple of weeks in September. Not wanting to think about this master plan too much over there.
When does
So
the warrant close?
Learning from those people, though.
When does the warrant close that we have
We
to
don't
get
have
this
to have
done?
it. Well, we don't have to have it on the warrant, so that's the good news, right? We don't need any warrant. We don't need any town meeting action on it. We just need to report.
Okay.
So we will report out what's, you know, high level, what's in the report.
So the like list of 20 recommendations or whatever that is might be good slideshow fodder and discussion.
Yeah, I'd say so. And then, you know, I think we really want to hit on, it's great to celebrate the successes and the accomplishments and the achievements, and then also hit the things that still need some work.
Mm-hmm. Is anyone interested in a working session? Would it be helpful to anyone else to have a working session that is, you know, an official meeting so that we don't violate open meeting rules, where we can, you know, even no, you can be anywhere in the world, but that we could sit down and, you know, kind of force ourselves to put pen to paper, as it were.
That's actually my preferred way of working on these things.
Okay, so what's up? I know it's summertime and people have vacation schedules and so forth. And in person, what would work for folks?
Well, I'm thinking of virtual, actually. I know it sounds,
Okay.
but I could do something in person as well, if that wouldn't cramp anybody's style. I would prefer virtual, but
How about you, Megan? What do you prefer?
I can go either way. I don't mind having a group of people in person, working with the virtual people, you know, we can mix and match. It can be hybrid, it can be virtual. Doesn't bother me.
Others? What's your preference? Do you want to do?
or not to do it, that's fine. And if it's just the two of us, then we don't even need to have an open meeting, but if anyone else needs that, I know that is
I'd prefer
definitely
virtual
something
and I'd love to get some feedback on the stuff that I've done, but because I just don't,
Great.
having not done it before.
Mhm.
Okay, so what do you think? Try and get one in before the 4th of August?
I think so.
That's not too much time from now, but
Well, yeah, I think so. I know I'm on a I have a stretch from July 24th to the I think it's the 28th or 9th, where I know I'm doing some good work on my own. So that would be a good time for me. I don't know if anybody else has
the
similar
20, so the 28th would work for you?
24th to the 28th, yeah.
Okay, so 24th I have planning board, and then, but
Okay.
does the 28th or 29th work for folks?
The
That's a Monday or
29th
Tuesday.
The 29th does not work for me, but the 28th could.
I
And
could
I
make
would
the
I would be
28th
remote.
work.
Okay, let me just double check. Hold on.
And Elaine, you've shared with me that you have some time constraints until sometime in August. So, you know, we can work with what my knowledge is of housing issues, and you can always add yours if that works for you, for us to meet on the 28th without you or with
Yeah.
you, whatever works.
I can try to make that work. And I'll let you know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. How about Dick? So,
My schedule's all over the place right now, so why don't you just pick a date and I'll try to make it work.
all right, so let's pick the 28th.
Is that the
What
28th
about
or 29th? You said the 28th is a Monday, right?
28th is a Monday, 29th doesn't work for Megan.
Right, okay.
So we know that we have at least four of us, and we may have Elaine and we may have Dick. So that's okay with me to do it that way on the 28th, just so we can, and maybe it'll be helpful to Dick and Elaine to see whatever changes we make before jumping into more of their sections. So
Is there a particular time for anybody? I'm off, so I'm wide open, so I'm happy to. I think I probably before 9 p.m. would be helpful.
Yeah,
Okay.
I turn into a pumpkin after like 8:30, so.
Yeah.
what's 6:30? You want to start earlier than 7? Is that what you're saying? Or do you want to do like, how much time do you want to allocate to this at first, I guess, as folks?
No.
Like 90 minutes might be
Yeah, 90
decent.
minutes.
Okay, so 7 to 8:30 then?
Yes.
Does that work? Okay. I'll admit I kind of like having it printed out in front of me at times, which I haven't been doing yet. So if anybody wants to do in person, I'd be okay in person. We'll Zoom in whoever else wants to, who prefers Zoom.
Okay.
I'm gonna be in Detroit, so I won't be able to be in
Okay.
person with you. Otherwise, I
Awesome.
would definitely be there. But I'll
All
be
right.
I'll be on paper, probably
Mm. In support,
on
in
screen.
support.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, so I'm
And-
gonna have
and
to
can
manage
I
the
just-
Zoom then, so
Can
okay,
I
I'll do it that
double
way.
check? Can I double check one thing?
Yeah,
We said no to the 24th and the 25th.
well, no, let me see.
I
Well,
think our-
24th I
Yeah,
said no to,
25th
25th
not
to
gonna work
Friday.
for me.
Okay. All right. Just checking.
24th is planning board, so if we weren't doing it in the evening,
And no to the 23rd. Was that not an option either?
23rd's okay for me.
All right. Let me just look real quick.
How about the rest
I
of
could do the
the?
23rd too, if that was better, but
How about you, Megan?
What day of the week is the 23rd Wednesday?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can do the 23rd.
And
Okay.
will you be
23rd
in
is a little
Detroit, or
better
will
for
you
me,
be-
so if you guys are okay with that.
yeah, I have a meeting that goes from 5:30 to 6:30, so 6:30 is as early as I could do it.
So let's do,
Oh,
all
I
right,
can,
so
7. You want to do 7?
let's do it on the 23rd at 7 then.
All right, let's go.
And
So it's MPIC working session.
yeah,
And so Cheyenne, are you going to put that in as an official meeting since there's 4 of us?
Yeah, I'll put that in.
And
Fantastic.
what room, if folks want to be in person, where can they show up?
I'll have to reach out to Lynn tomorrow to see what rooms are
Okay.
available that week. So maybe like the
Okay.
Cronin or something.
And Tabor, you'll be in person?
I'm not, I'm out of Milton all summer, so I'm gone.
Oh, okay. So Cheryl, it's just going to be you there. You want to work from home?
No, I said I was going in person.
no, she can
It's
go
just
in
the
person,
28th
You can go
that I
in
can't
person
be
on the
there.
23rd.
Yeah.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Sorry.
but we can Zoom whoever else in.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
All right, so thank you, Cheyenne, for setting that up for us. Tomorrow is just a working session for the agenda. It's just a working session on the 10-year report, okay?
That's great. Yes, I love it.
One of your final tasks for our committee. Thank you.
That's right.
All right. Anything else, folks, before we go?
Good.
Cheyenne, if you're aware of anything also from, your work here, the economic development plan, the open space committee's work, some of these things that I had asked you about, I think a month or two ago, if you have any updates for us, whatever, I don't know if you're going to be doing a memo, like a parting departure memo kind of thing.
Yeah,
We'll summarize those things. That'll be helpful too.
sure. I will say both of those committees have been, well, not committees, but both of those projects have pretty much been stalled. We were working with the economic development with MAPC, but the person we were working with doesn't work with MAPC anymore. So we're kind of starting all over. And as for open space, yeah, they've been stalled. I think the last time we met was end of March, and then we're working with the consultant on getting everybody to add to the spreadsheet. So there's not too many updates on those two, but I'll make an email.
Yeah, so I imagine you're going to need it for Nick too, just like who the contact people are and so forth. I know that both of those have touch points with the planning board, but I haven't heard anything at the planning board in a long time on them, so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for all that you've done. And otherwise, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Oh.
Oh, Rich, Dick, you got it.
Okay, thanks.
Or
Megan.
third.
All right, all those in favor, Dick,
Yes.
Megan,
Yes.
Regina,
Sad to see you go, but yes.
Elaine,
Yes.
Tabor,
Aye.
and myself, yes. All right, thanks, everyone. Good night.
Take care.